I didn't know I paid his wages, but hey, yes. I am John Koetsier. I lead research here at VB. I see a sign out there. Oh, wow, what is that? Hello, hello. Wow, sex versus smartphones, huh? We are geeks or something. I don't know what's going on. This is me up here. You can tweet your hate messages to me during and after the chat. I want to talk about winning in mobile. And we've talked about it for about a day and a half now. We see it all around us. There's this explosion going on in mobile right now, right? It's the fastest growing ecosystem in history. 2 billion smartphones we know now from Stuart are here, 4 billion soon, 8 billion not that far in the future, right? Time on device has gone up 76% in 2014, more than TV now. And this chart, as you see here, we've got 35 times growth in data over the past 5 years, where voice has stayed relatively static. Second thing we all know about is the unicorns, right? 165 of them now, according to who's counting what data they're looking at and whether you believe them or not, right? But 53% of them are mobile first, mobile only, or largely mobile. And the third thing that we all know about mobile is the competition here is intense. It's more than any other space we've ever seen, right? If you're mobile first, that's largely been competition for users, right? Competition for people on your app, right? And it's not uncommon. In fact, it's very common today to pay between $2 and $5 per user in a user acquisition campaign, right? But catching whales is hard. You can pay $40 to $60 for the most wanted users, and it's not unheard of to pay $80 or $100. Why is that? 60% of the revenue in mobile games comes from 1 out of 500 users. 60% of the revenue in mobile games comes from 1 out of 500 users, right? And it's not unheard of, I've talked to several gaming executives, to have people who are playing their supposedly casual game that have spent 6 figures in the game. That might be pathological or something like that, but that's obviously a user that's at high demand. Now, if you're enterprise, not mobile first, then it's probably more, you do want users, absolutely, and you want mobile users, but it's also more about getting your existing customers to convert into mobile users, right? So you can ride around with those customers in their hip pocket, right? And you can do notifications and updates as you might want to and have a closer relationship. We heard from the VP at Home Depot yesterday about that. And of course, he had the concern and the question, you know, nobody wants to wake up in the morning and check their Home Depot app, right? Quick poll, maybe, a little less scientific and a little less high-tech than Stuart's polls. Who here checks Facebook first thing in the morning? Yeah, we're a little old, huh? Interesting. Allianz, though, insurance company, about a year ago, they've got 85 million global customers. About a year ago, put in an intensive mobile campaign. And now they have 40% more customers connected with them on mobile, having their app in their pocket than they do on any other method, right? Online, for instance, versus desktop. So it's very, very powerful, right? Imagine if you're retail or you're in some other consumer services or a brand or something like, you're on the 3-foot device, right? The device that's never more than 3 feet from somebody's body. That's extremely, extremely powerful. But whether you're in either of those, the tough question remains, how do you win? As we look at mobile, we see 3 waves of success in mobile. It's a bit of an oversimplification. There's some variation and difference in there, but we see 3 waves of success in mobile. The first is the app success, right? App as a product, single app for a company, maybe 2 or 3 or something like that. I got the fart app icon up there. You got that part. But you can probably put some of today's companies that are at the top of the app leaderboards in terms of revenue in this category as well, even some of the major gaming companies, right? It's about the app. It's not an ecosystem. It's not something beyond there. The second wave of mobile success is the mobile-first enterprise, right? And Uber is the prototypical example there. Uber is this vast pyramid, this iceberg of capability and enterprise and distribution and marketing and everything else underneath this one very simple user interface, right? One very simple user interface that buries all that complexity. And then the third wave, I put up the Nike Plus app there, is a traditional enterprise that's adding mobile or reinventing itself around mobile, right? And trying to develop a relationship with end users, with end customers that they may have been disintermediated from in the past if they're B2B2C or something like that, right? Each of these has different challenges. Each answers the question of how to win a little bit differently. We're working at VB Research to help answer those questions in a variety of different ways. And so we're doing research into app analytics, into monetization, into user acquisition, mobile marketing automation or mobile engagement solutions, and all those things, and a lot more as well. And to do that, we're surveying about 3,000 mobile developers. We're studying about 1.8 million apps, what SDKs are in them, what ratings they're getting, how people are using them, those sorts of things. Hundreds of brands, and surveying thousands of digital marketers as well. Here's one of the tools that we've worked on and developed as part of our investigation into this space. This is built with Spoke Intelligence. It's going to be available on VB Profiles. You'll get access to it. You'll get information about it as well. We call it the Mobile Success Landscape. And there's an ebook coming out that'll be freely available as well about this. We see 6 categories here, right? There's development, there's APIs, there's user acquisition, there's analytics, there's engagement, and there's monetization, right? And we're looking at companies in each of those spaces. And of course, these logo maps are very popular these days and can be of limited effectiveness, but what they allow us to do is to look at the space in an analytical way, and you'll see some of the results of that in the next few slides. I gotta say, this is probably version 0.3 of this chart. We're going to be adding a lot more to it, and we'll be changing as we go. And we owe a debt of gratitude to Emergence Capital, who put together an initial version of this. So we're tracking almost 250 companies right now that will probably double, maybe even triple over time. That's about 55,000 employees that have received, in aggregate, about $25 billion of funding in this mobile success landscape. And currently, 15 of them are billion-dollar-plus companies. The number of companies in this space, new companies in this space, has doubled in just the past few years. And especially, we're seeing growth in 2 particular categories: engagement and user acquisition. Interesting here, the lion's share of investment is figuring out what the heck is going on inside my app, right? Analytics, you see that category is very hot, almost $600 million, right? Engagement solutions, mobile marketing automation, mobile engagement solutions, also very hot at 340, helping you understand who's in your app, helping you reach out to them, helping you communicate with them, to test various messages with them, those sorts of capabilities. Perhaps the most interesting piece is that 4 of these 6 layers are user-focused, right? You've got analytics, you've got user acquisition, you've got engagement, you've got monetization. Very, very focused on the user. That's interesting, and it ties back to the unicorns that we looked at, right? Because the unicorns reflect that user or customer-centric approach. The old brands and enterprises, maybe not quite so much. Maybe something they're still working on, right? And maybe that's why this second wave of the app revolution is noisier and more obvious to us than the third wave, which is coming still. So not a ton of time, this for instance being one of the second wave here. Not a ton of time with you today, but I wanted to zoom in a little bit and look at some of the research that we've done recently in the mobile space and just kind of cherry pick a few things out here or there. Some of the insights we've gathered in 4 or 5 of our more recent reports as we're studying how people are winning, what they're doing to create great customer experience, great user experience in apps. So we'll cherry pick a few things out. We'll start with mobile user acquisition, really hot category, obviously. You're actually getting a free report, courtesy, I believe, of Liftoff, just by virtue of attending this conference. And they've got something else for you as well, I just heard also, so that's cool. But you're getting this report when it's done. We wanted to launch here. We're about 2 weeks out from being able to launch that, so you'll get it hot off the press as soon as it's ready. You'll be the first people to get it, actually. Interestingly, this is a completely new study that we're doing, but we're also looking at what we did over the past 12 months. And as we see back in the past, if you look at the way developers and publishers wanted to capture new users and how they wanted to pay for that, CPI was the most popular method, right? CPI, cost per install. right? You get an install, I pay for that. If your advertising doesn't actually gather one, I don't pay for it. That's the blue category there, that's CPI. Versus CPC, cost per click, or cost per CPM, cost per 1,000 impressions of my ad, and CPP, cost per purchase, we're fractions of that. That's changed. Here you've got raw data from one segment of our new study right here. Now CPI is barely first, even among mobile-first publishers, right? It's starting to be more about measurable business outcomes, what people are actually doing, cost per action. Did they actually go in and do something? Cost per engagement, did they hit certain levels? Or cost per purchase, I'm only paying for a user if they actually buy something from me, right? And for big brands, big traditional and enterprise brands, that story is even vastly different. CPI doesn't even crack the top 3 here. Very, very interesting. Again, much more about measurable business outcomes than the simple fact that somebody has installed your app. So we're looking at a space that is maturing. We also looked at Facebook versus Google as if you're here day one, you heard Matt Marshall talk about a little bit, right? And 73% of developers use Facebook in their user acquisition campaigns. Everybody uses lots of people, so it's not like they use them exclusively, but 73% use Facebook. I'm not quite sure what the other 27% are doing and why they're not using Facebook. The developers who are say that Facebook is twice as effective as Google at getting new users into their apps, quality users into their apps. Now, that could change. Google's working very, very hard in mobile. They realized they were behind here. They've actually caught up in a variety of areas, but currently, that's the reality. Let's jump into app analytics for a moment and just take a look at some of the recent things that we've learned there also. If you look at app analytics on Android, it's almost laughable, right? If you look at market share, you've got Google Analytics and everybody else is a tiny fraction. But GA also has the highest uninstall rate. Very, very interesting there. And almost all developers use more than one tool. Most developers use 3 to 5 tools actually. And the more successful developer you are or publisher you are in mobile, the more app analytics solutions you use. Pretty interesting. Just one of the insights from that particular report. I've mentioned engagement a couple times, and mobile marketing automation a couple of times in the chat. We recently did a report on here, and this is actually an emerging category. I don't know if you heard over the weekend, Tune acquired Artisan Mobile, right? Artisan Mobile is one of those mobile marketing engagement solutions that allow you to know not just what's happening in your app in terms of numbers and big stories, but actual personal details, right? Individual people, segments and cohorts, sure, but then to market to them on a personal basis as well. Interestingly enough, 86% of developers that we've talked to that use MMA solutions report better results like higher engagement, increased retention, and higher revenue. And maybe the final report that I'll just dive into really, really quickly is one that we released about a month ago on mobile advertising and brands. We've seen a massive increase in mobile advertising, obviously, right? And it's moving up the value chain as well, moving up the value chain towards where TV used to be. That's despite a significant amount of complexity in the space, right? And this slide is only a fraction of some of the complexity in the space. There's a lot that's going on there. The amount of mobile advertising is increasing dramatically. Just one example, mobile video is up 5x in the last 12 months. That kind of jump is amazing. It's insane. It's huge. That's having an effect, right? And one study says that actually video ads on mobile have more brand recall effect than old school TV. And we see that consumers are responding to that, right? They're engaging with it, they're clicking with it, they're doing things, they're following and responding to that advertising, and in fact even going the last mile to actually complete a purchase. M-commerce is up 123% in the first quarter of this year. Now, does 123% sound like a huge number? Not necessarily. I mean, it is up, that's good, right, in a sense. But this is up in the quarter after the Christmas quarter. And what that tells you is that this is not something that's random and not something that's small and not something that's going away, but something that has strong and increasing, accelerating momentum. That's pretty interesting. So we see the explosion on mobile, right? We see the unicorns that are out there, many of whom are built on mobile, and we see the big brands that are scrambling to catch up. It's become really clear that winning in mobile isn't just about winning in mobile. Instead, it's becoming clear that to win in mobile is to win, period. Thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it.